Hola, 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 muy buenas a todos. Hello everybody. Okay, looks like I'm online. Just tell me on the chat if I'm ready to do the stream. Please tell me that everything is working. Hello, hello. I'm checking the cameras and everything that works perfectly. Perfect. Okay. So we were working, Vanessa and me, here with new software and new stuff. So we didn't know if it will work, and we forgot to change the quality. So it was just 720p instead to full HD. Only HD, I think, will be enough, but we want to offer the full HD for our stream. So remember that in that one I'm going to talk English, will be a sponsored stream from Signum Games. So, and for that, I'm going to use that model. So I hope you enjoy watching that model, how I paint. It's from Halloween. They want to release the new models for Halloween. And they told me that to show that model on my stream. And why not? I would like to paint something different than Games Workshop. That always I'm showing you Games Workshop. I would like to do in the future bigger models too on my streams, but I'm testing. As I said, I would like to do different styles, different ideas, and I will see how you like them, and in the future I will try to do the best. Remember that all that will be testing and enjoying, and this is the reason why I've decided to talk full English, because at least for me it will be easier than trying to translate everything and flipping between Spanish and English, which could be really tough for me. So after that, remember, if you are from another country that you speak Spanish, you are welcome to. And if you are from another country that they speak English or another language, that one will be perfect to link all of us, to join us in, I think, in a stream that will be interesting. I hope funny too. And why not? I think English will be okay because I'm going to paint a lot. At least it's the idea. If some people don't want to see that streaming, sorry for that. The language in that one will be English and in another one will be Spanish. So it's depend of the quantity of the viewers. I will see if I continue talking in English or not, because for me it's really tough. So I do that kind of streams and enjoying the weekends with all of you. But if you don't like them, maybe I'm going to continue painting or playing video games. I don't know. Maybe I can do some streams playing video games. I don't know if we will be better. Okay, so after say hello to everybody, I'm going to change the camera. So let me see if... So here I have Vanessa move all the keys. And I would like to see if all of them works. I think all of them. So I was painting, just for myself, a bit that model. I was painting just full airbrush, really quick, really fast. I don't care about anything, about the quality or something like that. I would like to show the model. I would like to paint and explain you something that will work on every kind of model, not just for Games Workshop style, but I think with a model like that one will be fantastic because we have elements that they look clear to see. So I think will work really nice for all the ideas that I have on my mind. I would like to try to do more zoom. I will see if I can do it. It's like it's focusing on my hand. Okay, now I have everything focused, I think. So that one will be the quality, the size, and everything. I think you will see perfectly everything, and I'm going to paint just that. So as I said, that model, if you like it, it's for Halloween from Signum Games. I don't know if there are someone on chat if you want to ask something. Maybe in the future someone from the company will answer you all the questions that you will ask. And in that one I would like to paint, just that. So before to start painting, I would like to say that I've painted everything with airbrush really quick. How you have to paint something like that really quick. The first idea is paint in general with 1 or 2 colors, just that. Then try to add more colors if you didn't make mistakes, and then try to add some final highlightings. For example, the effect about this metallic is really easy, it's just one layer and then another highlighting. And for the for that area is the same. For I don't know the name for that one. It's pumpkins, I think is the name. So for the pumpkin, it's just painting with a brown with oranges and then the final highlighting with pure orange, and you can get that volume, that shape really quick. This is a method that I use sometimes when I would like to paint really quick. I don't like too much painting in that way because some volumes won't work in the perfect way. But it's true that if you want a really quick sketch to see if the color scheme works, I think the airbrush will be perfect to just paint everything in general without care if you paint it in wrong places or something like that. So you have the option to paint like that really quick and then test. So if you like, just keep it. If something doesn't work, just paint with another color and you will have a perfect example about all the colors on your model. Then once you have that, just repaint with your brush or continue painting with your airbrush if you can. Just that, something easy like that. I was painting like that just to paint faster because for that stream, I don't want to paint again the base coats for everything. I would like to keep in that stream all the things that I think it's really important. What? The shape. It's something that always I'm talking about the shape when I'm painting with copy bases with my own method. Something that a lot of people is using now, and I'm really glad to see that more and more people is using that. But it will be really interesting if the people say that they are learning from me, because I've decided that knowledge and that method with more years, and now people start to see that works really easy. For sure, you have to invest time painting and learning that, but it will work really, really well. You can see my results on my miniatures, and if you like that style, this is the way I work, with copy bases, with thick layers, and with a lot of contrast, and with a lot of saturation on the colors. About the saturation, it's up to you. If you don't want to use that color palette, you have the option to work with other colors. Less saturated, just that. The process will be the same. And the shape is something that always explain. So for that, I'm going to use first that area for the pumpkin to paint, because I think it will be so easy, and once you see how I painted, you will understand really quick. Then the rest of the materials is exactly the same. Deconstruct the shape and try to represent the material. So if you have to paint with more contrast, do it. If you have to play with texture, do it with stippling, something like that. Or if you have to add something different, you have the option to do it too. But we will see later. So I'm going to start painting, and just that. I see that we are more than 34 on that stream. Thank you for all the people that is joining, but I don't see enough likes. Please press the button from the likes and just share with all your friends. Maybe someone is there that they want to learn with that technique or method or ideas. So ready to paint. I think that one, perfect. Okay, I'm going to keep here the model, and I'm going to use some colors for the. Okay, I'm going to move all that things, and I promise you that I'm going to talk full English, and I'm going to paint a lot. Not like in other streams that I was talking too much. At least in that one was just 5 minutes, just that. Okay, I'm moving the colors. Okay, for that one, if someone want to see the color that I'm using, I would like to do more zoom. Okay, maybe here it's perfect for the stream. I think you will see really well everything. Okay, for the colors, I'm going to show you the both colors that I use. The first one was that one, okay. These colors were the colors that I use, and the first one it's medium rust and then medium orange, okay. So because that colors were the colors that I use for the base coat, I'm going to continue painting just with that one. Why? Because this one was the base coat, so then that one is more or less perfect, and I would like to add contrast with highlightings. What kind of highlightings you can add? Highlightings with color, saturated colors like in that case, or with light, with more white. So at the beginning, always I'm going to recommend you play with that colors. Don't mind if you have too much contrast with a saturated color, because later if you want to increase the contrast or you want to remove the contrast, it's just adding colors with more white and will be perfect. Okay, so I'm going to play with that color because it's the highlighting that I have, and I'm going to use that one to define everything. Then, if I don't have enough contrast, I'm going to play with something higher than that one. Ok. Voy a echarlo por aquí. Ok. Then. Okay, I said that I would like to show you the glass too, to show you that I don't paint with too much water, something different. Okay, so first painting with that color. If you have questions, you can use the chat to ask me, and in the future I will try to answer the questions. For that streams, remember that I'm trying to paint faster than I usually do because I would like to paint more. But in general, the way to do it is starting as I'm doing. Not with airbrush, but if I have a full layer just with exactly the same color, I'm going to play with exactly the same effect. So first painting all the edgings, and then the next highlighting. So it's something different because usually we have to paint first the layers and then the highlightings. This is something that I don't like because I would like to play always with the edging from the beginning, because sometimes just with edging you have defined everything and you can get the contrast that you need. All the wrinkles from that pumpkin, if you use the same edging at the beginning, will work really well once you add the next highlighting, will work as a mid-tones. So this is why I'm working in general, not only for the edging. I try to represent all the folds or wrinkles for that face just from the beginning. Okay. Then, once you have something like that, so what do you have to keep on mind? The first thing is that one is like a ball, like a sphere. So you have to choose a place to increase the highlighting. Obviously, the top should have lighter, but obviously it depends of the material, because sometimes if you draw like a crown here on the center, will look with more contrast than if you paint only on top. And then if you have more contrast there on the center, you can increase the volume or the shape from that ball. And this is what I'm going to do. Okay, once I have something like that, I'm going to increase the lighting just on that center with exactly the same color. Okay, you see just with the first layer, more or less it's defined, that element. Sorry if in some moments it's blurry, because that model has a lot of elements and the camera trying to focus, and it's tough for the camera, at least with that zoom. Okay. Let me see a second. No? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to paint the next layer. I'm going to clean the brush first, and then next one. Fourth, I'm using just water. I don't use flow improver or similars. It's not necessary. Just with water is okay. Sacrament of Carnates. Yeah, the idea to paint with thick layers with my brush, it's because when you use the airbrush, always will be desaturated, the colors. This is the reason why I don't like them. So this is why my models looks more saturated than others, because if you start with a base coat with the airbrush, will be so thin, and at the end will be desaturated. And if we play with light colors, usually they looks more desaturated than should be. This is why when I paint with my airbrush, I try to play with midtones and shadows instead of highlightings. This is a special water from Spain, yeah. This is why I don't use Flu Improver. Just with the Spanish water from Spain, it's enough. Okay. Let me see if I can add something there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to paint the eyes really quick. No, I'm going to paint the next highlighting. For next highlighting, I'm going to use skin tones or similar with oranges, which I think will work really well. For example, I'm going to use colors like that. I'm going to do less zoom. Whoop. I'm going to use colors like golden yellow or a light orange. Okay, I'm going to use one of these two colors, or maybe two. So I'm going to mix them. Whoop. I'm going to move that one just to have more focus on the camera. Whoop. Boop. Okay. I'm going to add light rust. So there you have. And golden yellow. This is maybe one of the most famous colors for all the companies. So all of them, they have the same color. All the companies is copying it's between all of them with exactly the same color. Maybe with little variations, but all of them have golden golden yellow or sunny skin tone or similar, which one is exactly the same. So if you have other colors similar, will work really well too. No, that one is not the camera, it's that one. No, which one is? Ah, here. I think I'm going to paint just with that color without mixes. So you see I'm not using water. I'm going to give you again here the color, and I'm going to add a bit of zoom. Okay, so I'm going to paint exactly in the same places, but with less area. So the idea is use the previous layering for the next highlighting. So the idea with that color is not paint there on the shadows. The idea is continue painting here. Let me see a second. I would like to see some on the camera. Okay, so I'm going to continue using that color. Oh, there. I think now it's a bit better, the camera. If someone missed that I didn't talk a lot, sorry for that. Some of you told me that I have to paint more than talking. So I will try to paint more. So as you see, I'm not using water, or if I have to add a bit of water, it's just really few, just 1 or 2 drops of water. Okay, for example, now, just with that layers, these 2 layers, more or less is defined that element. I would like to blend a bit. So now, if I would like to blend, I'm going to add a bit of water there, for example, and I'm going to add a bit of color to have a dilution like 50%. This is the kind of copy glazing that I use. And touching like that. This is the way I blend. Okay. So now, if I would like to add another layer, I'm going to use that sunny skin tone or golden yellow, something like that. And I'm going to mix with the previous one. So the idea to start painting with that kind of layering, it's to use the previous color for the shadows. So that layer will be the shadow for the next color, or the midtone for the next color, if you want to understand it like that. I call them like shadows because my mind is easier to understand them. Like, okay, I've painted the shadow for the previous layer or for the next layer. So I'm going to paint big areas to have them in the future as shadows. What happened with that shadows? That because they have lighting, at the end will work as a midtones. Okay, you see, so if I continue painting, I'm going to add the layering there on the center of that pumpkin. Why? Because in that way, you will have the rest of the colors as a midtone or shadows. So this is why I like to work like that. So we have a really huge contrast, and I've painted just with 3 layers. So I think it's really quick to do it. I'm going to paint something quicker for that painting, I think with a nice quality, but something easy that everybody can copy or use for their models. So I don't want to do something crazy with that model. So I don't want to represent something with 7 or 8 layers because it could be difficult for some people. So we like to do something easier. I'm going to use yellow now for the eyes and maybe the mouth or the nose. I'm going to check it. So I'm going to play with that one, with volcanic yellow. Okay, that color. Pop. If you see, that one looks more like yellow than the other one. So that one maybe looks more like orange if we compare with the rest of them. This is why for me the names sometimes is really funny, because don't follow just the name of the colors. Sometimes it's harder than that. Maybe at the beginning it's easier to use them, like, okay, this is, the name is green, I don't know, camo green. Okay, use it as camo green. But if you know in the future, maybe that camo green means more like a different brown than green. So this is just if you compare with the rest of the colors. And here I think you have a nice example, because maybe that one for some people will look more like that orange instead of like yellow, and maybe that one looks more like yellow. So this is something that just I would like to say. Just that. Okay, again, I'm going to paint without water. Maybe for some people this is really crazy that I'm not using water. Like many years wasted trying to get the perfect dilution. And then I came and I say, don't have to use water, just that. Okay. Just with that color, I'm going to paint the highlighting there, like the eyelids on that. Let me see if I can do bigger zoom or less, I don't know. Maybe here and there, I think. Perfect. I try to don't move too much the model, because now it's like, don't move it. I'm going to see how it works on the mouth, but I think just with the edging here, some of them just on the peak could work. Okay. Now, if you want to add more yellow inside of the eyes, I recommend you add a bit of water, like a dilution with 50%, something like that, and adding some, not like glazing, but two thin coats. Could be work for that. Like that. Okay, with more contour. But if you see, I continue keeping the outlining with that shadow. Why? Because without that lining, maybe realistic won't be, because you have to keep everything with light in there. But without that outlining, never you will have definition. So now you can compare that layer that could look more like OSL comparing with the other one. Okay. And now, for example, I'm going to use that color, which looks lighter if we are talking between different yellows. And I'm going to test if it works here. Okay, I think it works. Why I've decided to add like a yellow but lighter? This is because the surge of light should be lighter comparing with the rest of the layer. Never you will have lighter color out of the OSL, and never you will have to play with white. If you want to represent like a white layer, white light, maybe. But if you want to represent like yellow around that, the surge of light, so that eye should be lighter or near of white comparing with the rest of the yellow. So this is why I'm playing with that color. If you want with white, maybe it will look better, but in that case I'm going to test with that color. If it doesn't work, I will add a bit of white later. So this is how I work. I like to start with the shadow in that cases, because you have the option to go up always. If you start with the midtone or the highlighting, then go down here, I think it's really tough. So this is why I like to play just going in a direction. So you see, just with 2 layers on the oranges is okay. With a layer with yellow, it's okay too. So if you want to have more contrast, it's just adding higher highlighting. For that, maybe with ice yellow or pale yellow, I think could work. Nah, I'm going to keep it like that. I think just with that is enough. I want to play with more colors. I'm going to show you with a smaller size. Okay, this is what I did really quick. Okay, so this is my finger. This is how small is that one. Just 3 layers, really quick. So I think with layers like that will be fantastic. If later you get the option to add glazing, adding colors and more things, and will look much better than that one. But if you see as beginning or just keeping like that, it's fantastic, I think. So tell me in the comments if you like that way to paint with only 3 layers, which maybe for some of you will be really weird, but for others will be like fantastic. Like, okay, only with 3 layers, if I paint in the correct places, I can do that. Yes, you can do that. With high contrast, with definition. So if you compare with the rest of the elements, I think it works really well. Okay, I'm going to paint I don't know the name for that, the root with a green color, and will be okay. For that, I'm going to use something less saturated or saturated. I'm going to use something saturated and just that. I'm going to paint with green. Okay, I'm going to use that dark green. Clean always your brush. And there we go. Okay, fix it. That mistake. Mr. Thanks a lot. I'm not using nothing inside, so I can show you. It's like just that. So you see, I don't use pots. So I use the painting just from the pot. I don't use bottle paint bottle mixers or similar like that. I don't use them. I used in the past, but I had really big issues. A nice company. I bought the mixer for I suppose that was a nice company because the name is famous, and was horrible because all the paints were rusted, or they have rust inside now. So I don't like them. So I can show you the result if you want. Let me see some colors that they look awful, and maybe you will understand perfectly why I don't use them. Where I have them. Okay, for example, you see? So this is what happened with the with the mixers. Okay, so it was I suppose that a nice company, but they cheat me. Like me, a lot of people. So it was really tough. You see? So all that is inside of the pot. So this is why I don't recommend you lick the brushes or similar. So because that happened. So I added in a lot of colors. So it's something that I don't like to use now. So I don't use them. So I was looking for more colors, but I don't see them now. Okay, next. What do you want to see? We can talk about the, for example, leather or other stuff near of this pumpkin. For example, the leather there, or the hand. Maybe it could be like a globe. So I'm going to paint it really quick. So I'm going to paint with that color, for example. So I'm going to use that color, camouflage green, so camo green. This is why I said that maybe for some people that one looks more like brown or grays instead of that green. It's a really desaturated green. The bone, okay, then I'm going to paint the bone after that. So I'm painting more than talking, so please use the chat to answer the questions. Okay, Sacrament of Carnage, I will try. Why I've decided to use that color instead to other. So if I use blue here, maybe the contrast will be from the complementary colors. However, if I use that green, could look like a black leather plus the OSL with yellow or orange lighting came in from there. So that color could look more like the lighting from the OSL than if I use blue. This is the reason why I decided to use that kind of green to represent a black color here than others. Okay, so every color that I use, it's for a reason. So I'm talking why is the reason. I'm trying to talk in really quiet because if I'm talking, it's impossible for me to start painting. and more difficult in another language. So in English it's so tough for me, so I need a lot of effort. Okay, then once you have something like that, again, you can blend if you want. I'm painting like that, and will be enough. You have the midtone, the shadow, and the lighting. Then, if you want more lighting, again, I'm going to use that yellow, mix with the green color. No, I think I'm going to reduce the saturation. I'm going to show you the mixes. So that one, once I added that yellow, this is something that I don't like because now it's too green. I would like to have something more desaturated to work as a kind of gray to use for black color. So I'm going to use that color and then that one. Why? Because it's more desaturated than the other yellow. So that gray I think will work. If it doesn't work, I'm going to use a bit of orange to desaturate more the color and have more gray. Something like that. So if you see, that one looks more desaturated than the other one. The other one is more yellow, has more yellow inside. Okay, you see? So how works the rest of the colors, like midtones? Remember that this one is really, really tiny, okay? So just with that, for me, it's defined and done. You don't have to add more colors. Just 2 layers. Then, next colors. I'm going to continue painting here. In that case, I will... thank you, Sacrament of Carnage, to use the chat and tell me your feedback. Slang, no, in general. So if you're working with the GW paints or P3 or other colors, they are more diluted than AK. The only reason to use water if you are using scale 75, because it looks like concrete, so I recommend you to add a bit of water. It's not bad quality, but it's like concrete, so you have to add a bit of water. But the rest of the colors, they design it better to paint miniatures, so you don't have to add water inside if you don't want. I was painting with scale 75 without water too, but I recommend you to add a bit. But in general, you don't have to add water. This is something like in the past people said because you have to paint with glazing. Something that in my mind doesn't make sense. It's like a wasting time, just that. So I was showing my methods, my miniatures in the painting contest and all that stuff with that method. So it works perfectly. So I recommend you test it and enjoy painting. You will paint faster, and I think the results will be better than painting with glazing. So someone designed the colors to use in our miniature wall. If you are using painting for other craft or arts or similar, for sure you have to add dilution. But if the painting was designed to paint miniatures, the dilution is correct. You don't have to alter it or you don't have to change it for a new one. At least it's my opinion. Just that. I see that the people like something thinner in general, but because they heard that they have to add water. Or fluid proof or similar question that in general people do or ask me. Okay, for the other black leather, I'm going to use brown. A desaturated brown, like that one. Whoop. This tan earth, for example, that looks more like gray, brown, something like that. If you don't like too much that orange that the brown has inside, I recommend you mix it with a bit of green, the green that I have on my palette, okay, the camo green. The dilution from Vallejo is similar like that one. So I want to use water. So if you see my tutorials, you will understand why. The reason why I'm using that orange, that green, it's because that color, that brown, has oranges inside. So if you compare with other oranges, it's more or less there. So this is why I'm mixing with that color to have something more desaturated. Just is a bit, but doesn't look exactly like that brown. I think will be perfect for the black that I would like to represent. And then the stippling or the texture to represent that. First, to do the stippling, I recommend you define everything. Okay, something like that. Then on top, so now once you have something like this, it's time to define the stippling. But in my opinion, this is just for my taste, okay? You don't have to do it, and it's completely fake, so you don't have to do it. But in general, I like to draw that outlining with lighting, like an edge highlighting. It's completely fake, but that one I'm going to do it with a stippling. Why I like to do that? Because it will help me to define perfectly the outlining between the pumpkin and that leather. Now it's time to do the stippling. The stippling, how I do, is not just doing a stippling like that, like touching. It should be more like random, like creating scratches with dots, or in general painting another area more with than others. So something like that. So for example, I created like a line with stippling, like in that case. But the rest of the element, it's without information. So I'm going to add more information there. How? Just doing exactly the same, but with other angles like that, for example. Then, once you have something like that, it's time to decide where you want or you should add the final highlighting. In that case, I would like to move to the top, there. So because I would like to add there the next highlighting, I can't have that layer because it's too dark. So I have to remove the previous layer, that black, with this new one. So we look flatter than the rest of the stippling. Something like that, you see? So I have now there like stippling, and there a lot of stippling, or just removing the previous layer. This is the reason, because I'm going to use that new color as the shadow for the next lighting. So I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to add that color inside. Okay, something like this, you see? So you see that now painting, scratching, or stippling, or leather is something easy, right? So the scratching doesn't mean like you have to paint crazy stippling everywhere. It's like representing more or less something older like that, and moving the highlighting where you want, like I did it. Then if you want more contrast, exactly the same, we create a new layer with exactly the same two colors. And do exactly the same, but only, for example, there, where it's the place to continue increasing the contrast. So I'm going to forget the rest of the element. So maybe I'm going to add some final touches, like scratching, but in general, I'm going to work just there. Okay, so the leather for me now it's ready. Then I will add inks or similar. Yeah, I will add inks to have different finish. So it will be more like satin or glossy for the inks, and I'm going to add midtones with that layering because will look more like filters and will be fantastic to represent different materials. So this is how it looks. You see now the pump kick and the head, the hand and that part on the forearm with leather. It's more defined, just with few layers. So you can see comparing, it's really tiny with few layers and just that. So what do you think about that? Just tell me your opinion. I would like to hear your opinion about that one. So this is what I'm doing. So now, I don't know if I should continue with the red to show you how I will work there with red. In general, I'm painting that area just to show you how it looks with more definition around that place. So I'm going to paint it, I think, with the red to continue showing you how I will work. This is an example that just starting with the base coat with layer, so with the airbrush, the layering, or just painting with copy bases in the same way. So this is how I will work. The most interesting is try to paint at the beginning thicker dots or thicker lines, and at the end super thin lines. So if you see the definition here, it's really, really tiny. You can see my brush and how some lines, it's just from the peak of my brush, okay? This is a perfect definition. The key, I think, will be on the size of the scratching, the stippling, the edging. If you paint something really thick, like for example I did there, that I don't like it, so I should change it. For me, this is like a highway, so I will change it. For me, it should be more like you can see on top, okay? I like to show you with that size because I think you will see perfectly and everybody will understand better than if I show you the model with that size, right? So if I show you like that, maybe at the end you won't see anything. But the truth is, can you see the definition? Just with 3 layers or 2 layers, you can get that definition. So really quick, and I think really well. Then the work will come with different tonalities, different shades, different contrasts with inks, glossy, something like that. Okay? So if you like more that size, just tell me, because I'm trying to do my best with that zoom, but it's really tough to work. Pam, 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 pam. So you see every brush stroke. Now with that brush strokes, looks like I don't know how to paint, right? Okay, so I'm going to paint with the red and maybe the shoulder, just painting with the similar process, okay? Something really quick. That will help everybody to paint their models really fast with a really nice quality. Okay. Okay. I'm going to use Carmine. It's the color that I use for the highlighting, and I'm going to use exactly the same color for the next layers. The highlighting that I've painted with the airbrush. You will see like now, exactly with the same color, will look, I think at least, will look more saturated and lighter. And I'm using exactly the same. This is for the opacity from the pigment. Okay. So there, you see that area. Don't lick the brush. Use the paper towel. Unless if you have battle mixers like mine with rust inside. For that one, for example, the outlining more or less is defined, so I don't have to draw the lining that I explained you there on the leather. So for that, I'm going to keep just the natural shadow that I have, but on top, I'm going to create that lighting. It's fake, I know, but I love how it works. Oops, I was out of the camera, sorry. Okay, first layer. So if you see that lighting that I've painted, it's to create that contrast. But that lining like that, I hate it. I don't like that kind of lines. I've seen in a lot of metallics lines like that. Doesn't make sense. And in a big surface like that one, neither. Should be more like a gradient, more natural, bigger. So I'm going to add a bit of water. I'm going to create a dilution like 50%. And I'm going to move now the layers from outside to inside. So from out of that layer to stop there, like that, pop. So that one has too much water. I should add more color. This is something that I hate with the glazing. Should be completely dried, okay? If you paint over a place where you have a wet, then you will remove the previous layer and you will add a new one. So it won't be a nice gradient. So if you see just with the first one, will be more or less okay, but I would like to do faster. So I'm going to paint like that. Perfect. Okay, this is just with the first layer. And now you can see red how it works. So if you compare with the rest of the red, you will see like looks more saturated, with more light, and this is just with a layer. Now I'm going to add a new one, okay? This is just to show you that how it works. Maybe I will move the layer there a bit else. But no more. Okay, so I'm going to add another layer. In that case, I'm going to use, let me see the colors. For example, that color is one of my favorites maybe for the new range of AK. That red is a color that I show you a lot of time. So maybe if you have to buy some colors, that one will be a must have it. Just for my taste, okay? So always I say that you have to buy the colors you like them. Just that. If someone say that only with 3 colors they can make all of them, it's fake. So don't believe his words. It's completely fake. In the past, the Grandmaster were using 15 pigments different, so just marketing. And then the color is so cheap, so you can just pay $2 or $3 and you will have the color that you like. Okay. Okay, you see the red color I use, I mix it with the dead red, but the contrast maybe, it's okay, but not enough. Okay, for me it works, but I will add another layer else, just on the top. So I'm going to add just that color. Okay. And this is how it works. Only 3 layers. Pam, 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 pam. Only 3 layers. So this is why it's so important. Use the previous layer, the previous shadow, and keep them in the correct places, because with the next highlighting you can define everything. You see, looks really organic. The fabrics looks like the folds from the fabric, and I've painted only with 2 layers maybe there, and then the final highlighting only on the top near of the shoulder pad. So this is fantastic, I think. So this is all the tricks that I have for you. Okay, so now I think I could paint that element. To paint the red, maybe I could paint really quick there. And then to change... okay, I'm going to paint here really quick, just to show you the definition, how it looks. You have more in general. Okay. Vale. Looks like I have blue inside. That area I'm painting really fast just to show you the process. That will be like I did it on top. But I would like to paint it faster to show you that what happens when you don't paint enough area. So if you have too much shadow. So this is why for me it's really important the midtones. Because if not, it will look like that. And then I'm going to show you how to change it. This is more or less the explanation for Mr. Thanks, that he's asking me how to fix the mistakes. And this is that I'm going to do. So I'm going to create something like I think that everybody will do. This is something like that. Okay. So what happened when you, and let me show you in both. So this is the difference. Okay. So we have red on top, right? So it looks like red with the midtones, the shadows, and everything. And then you have the red on the bottom, which one looks more like black and red. So it doesn't look like red. How we can fix that? The first, it's you have to remove more from the previous layer. You have to remove the shadow, because never you will have a shadow like that with that depth everywhere. If you want, you can keep that shadow in some places, like a 10% or 5%, in some wrinkles, in some folds, but in general, should be red. So with more red, because with the next layers, you will increase the contrast. And remember, you have to keep that color for the shadow for the next highlighting. So that red will be the shadow for the next layer, lighter. So keep that on mind. Never you should paint less in few elements, like non-metallic maybe, and sometimes it doesn't work neither. That you have to keep the shadows and then the highlighting near, it's between both. But in general, when we're talking about fabrics or other elements, I recommend you remove more from the previous one to have like a different layer and a different background. So now is what I'm going to do. And if you see, connect all the wrinkles or folds, always. Okay, for example, now, let me see if I can show you well. Okay, more or less there is focused. Now the base coat looks more red and the rest of the shadows could look darker for the depth. If you don't like because continue being too dark in some places, just remove more from the previous layer. I think with that is okay, but if you want, we have the option to do that. For example, for me it's too dark, so use exactly the same color, make a dilution like 50%, like I said, and blend, for example, on some shadows to remove the depth. Okay, something like that. Now the depth will have more like a violet instead of this blue. Okay, so now I'm going to add the next highlighting. How? Mixing these both colors because I want to paint more red, but in general I will do something like that. Okay. So now the final highlighting for that. So you see just with two layers, start to look more or less like red. Now I'm going to use just that red to add the final highlighting. And that final highlighting I'm going to work only on places like that, because I was working previously with a mix between both colors. Like that. To show you. So you see again, only with 3 layers. I'm going to paint the ropes, and you will see easier once I remove all the black or dark color there. This is why I like to play in general everything, because if you paint only a single element, maybe won't be correctly defined, or everything will look darker than it should be, or lighter. It's depends of the background you have. So if you paint everything, in general, you don't have to paint many layers, just a single one to remove all the black areas or white areas. Okay. So for example, now we can add another layer. I'm going to use exactly or similar colors. Oops, I was outside of the camera. Okay, you see now that looks more like red. I'm trying to represent a darker red, like a carmine or a cold red, okay, more than a warm red, because for that character doesn't make sense. So this is why the temperature is so important. So keep in mind the temperature, because sometimes when you want to represent, for example, a character in the night, we use incorrect colors talking about the temperature. So this is why I painting that cold red for him, because maybe with a warmer red it doesn't make sense. So you see, really quick, I think quick, okay, for sure. If you paint with contrast or you paint with washes or similar, you will paint faster. But never you will get exactly the same results like that. Will be different, maybe better for you or maybe not, but will be different for sure. So this is what I propose. Paint, enjoying the painting. So for me it's the most important. If your idea is painting for playing, maybe it's not the perfect method for you. Maybe you can mix it with others. For sure you can play with oils or washes or similar and then do all that things. I was painting with washes and oil effects when I was a teenager, so it's really old and I stopped working in that way because I don't like the style, I don't like the result. But this is my opinion, this is what I'm looking for. It's different style. I'm not painting for playing. I'm painting for box arts or trying to offer the best quality. This is just because I like it, just that. So if you want to enjoy, relax it, painting, that kind of method, I think will work really well for you. If you want to paint 100 miniatures, for sure, no. I can show you only with 3 layers and the result will look much better than oil, but never will be faster like the other one. Okay, so there you have the result for that. So now I'm going to paint that shoulder pad and I will see how I can add a really quick detail like this with 3 layers, something like that, which will help you to continue painting a model like that. So just faster and quicker. Okay, so I'm going to paint just the kind of bone, or doesn't look like bone. That one is a rat inside of there. It's really nice model. So with that details. So the model looks nice. It's really nice detailed and easy to paint. So it's nice. It's nice, that model. Okay. For the top, I'm going to use different grays with a bit of blue, I think, or green, maybe green, to have more contrast with the blue or green will work perfectly for the lighting, for the environment, and to get double contrast with that head. But it's true that if I use more blue, will work with that element, and if we use more green, will work more with the other element. Both will work. So I don't know which one. So maybe I'm going to use both, and just that. I'm going to do something darker there. There, I'm playing only with edging to have the contrast. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to use that lead gray. I'm going to use that lead gray, okay, as you see. Okay, and then I'm going to add a bit of greenish white. Okay, greenish white. And maybe if it's too blue, I will add something like pastel blue, which one has a lot of white, but with more color. Maybe like that, so you can compare, right? So that one will be like the final highlightings, that one, and then the other will be perfect for the mixes. So this blue or this gray, but this with this blue will work perfectly for the midtones, and then for the final highlights, I'm going to use that one instead to use pure white. Milo, I don't know how to answer you. I don't know how to answer you about your question. No, I didn't have that issues. So maybe it's for the company. Maybe you are using wrong colors or older, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Could be a lot of. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it or how to explain you have to work, because I don't know the company. I don't know anything about that. Maybe it's the primer. Maybe I don't know. It's difficult just with that info. Okay, I'm going to show you that because maybe the mix is interesting. I don't know if we'll be focused there, but I will try. I think it could work. Okay, I think so. I will do similar like I did in the leather part. So first, I think I need to add more contrast because this one is too low. First, I'm going to draw the edging. Let me see if I can do it there. Now with that zoom is impossible for me now working here. Let me a second. Boop. Okay. Let me paint this a bit faster, and then I'll continue explaining you that things, because this is really tough with the zoom that I was working. I can move the model. Okay, why I've decided to paint that kind of circles? Okay, the idea to paint that kind of circles, it's the same effect that I said with the leather. So you have to paint an outlining and edge highlighting. So the edge highlighting to draw the outlining between that element. And now the idea is continue painting scratching or stippling or something like that, or just with clean brush strokes, everything between that lines. Okay, this is to create the better definition than painting the stippling without detailed. This is how I work. So after that, I'm going to do one thing before. So I'm going to paint with that brown, stitches. I don't know well the name for that. I think that is itches, but I'm not sure. Thank you, Mr. Thanks. Whoop. Focus in my hand. Focus. Okay. So now I think will be easier to understand that. Maybe it's too much. Let me stitching. Okay, thank you. Okay, the same. I'm going to mix that color with the previous layer. I'm trying to represent the non-metallic really fast as the rest of the elements. So the process will be like that, and then blending a bit, but in general like that. Whoop. Okay, so now using exactly the same color, again, dilute the painting like a 50%, and do exactly the same with touching, like stippling. Okay, and now I'm going to add more or less the final highlighting. I'm going to use that color plus the previous one. The one is a bit diluted, sorry. I'm going to add a new mix. Oops, completely blurry. Sorry for that, because it's an element really tough to focus. Ay, uy. Okay, so once we have something like that, that maybe looks now awful for all of you or some of you, the process will be the same. I'm doing less zoom because it looks too much blurry for me, and I don't know if in your home will be blurry too. I suppose will be the same. I'm going to blend at the end with that final touches. Ta -ta 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 -ta. Okay, and now I'm going to paint the final, super final highlighting just with that color. Okay, I'm going to make a dilution with a 50%, and I'm going to blend at the end. Okay. So, and this is the non-metallic. Okay. This is how it looks. This is my finger. This is the definition. This is how it looks everything. So comparing with the previous one, you see the red looks like red, darker. The metallic looks like metallic with a non-metallic metal. The pumpkin, or I don't know, pumpkin, I think is the name. Looks like that with the OSL inside, the rope, everything, and really, I think quick. Okay, for sure, maybe for some of you will think like it's too much time, but I would like to show you. So this is how it looks. Okay, you see the definition only with 3 layers, less the non-metallic that maybe I've painted with 4 layers. In the future, I will add more color. I will add some, for example, I could add a bit of oranges for rust, for non-metallic, which could add really interesting info for that character, but not too much, okay? Just on places where I don't have too much definition. For example, I'm going to use that red, that oranges. I'm going to add a bit of water because I'm going to test if it works or not. If it works, then I'm going to paint with the copy base. For example, there. This is too low. I'm going to add more color. Example a bit there, or in places where I don't have definition. Okay, this is to add more definition, just that more something more interesting. For example, that area where I don't have too much detail, I have the option to add oranges too. And now I'm going to add more orange, just without water. Like that. Okay, so this is what I will do. For example, just adding a bit of rust, which is easy now. And this is how it looks. So what do you think about that result? I think it was in short time, quicker, with few layers, not with crazy layers. So tell me, what do you think about that? Because I was trying to do my best in a really short time. So just painting with 3 layers, 4 layers, nothing else. You don't have to add 7 layers or 20 layers, or painting with 45 glazing or similar for that. Just with copy bases, you can work in that way. Will work really well. So remember that this is my finger. It's really small character. It's 28 millimeters. Is a bit bigger, maybe 35 for that character, but not too much. So it's a cool character if you want to paint something for Halloween or something different, a different character. For me, it looks more like medieval. Medieval. I can remember the video game from PS1. I think medieval. I don't know well the. In Spanish is medieval, medieval evil, I think. So that one is fantastic, and it reminds me something like that. So it was a really nice character. It's like a Sleepy Hollow, I think. It's something like that. Medieval, right? So really nice video game. I was enjoying a lot when I was a kid playing that game on PS1. So now I feel really old playing that game. So it was really fun game. And it reminds me something like that. So this is why I think that this is a cool model if you want to paint something that reminds you something when you were younger. So this is everything about that stream. In the next one, I would like to continue painting that model. Tell me if you like, please share with all your friends, push the button from likes and leave me some comments that I would like to hear, and I try to answer all of them about painting ideas, issues, everything, okay? So just let me know, and I would like to share with you more days like that, few hours, like more or less 2 hours painting. Just relax it. Sorry for the people that they want to hear my voice talking a lot of time. In that one, I've decided to paint more and be quiet because some friends told me like, hey, you have to paint more because you don't stop talking, so you have to paint. So I decide to talk less and just paint. Maybe it will be more universal, more for everybody, so people from other countries, from Spain or other places that they don't understand well English, can follow the process. It's the same. And here you have the result. So thank you again to stay on the other side watching that stream. Here you see the result with more zoom. I think works really well with few layers. Maybe one of my favorite places, not my favorite, maybe my worst was the non-metallic, in my opinion, just because I painted too fast. But the pumpkin and the leather and the red coat, I think works really well. So in the future I will paint, so in the next stream, I will continue painting that one. So leave me on the comments your ideas if you want to see the horse, the skull for the horse, the OSL that I'm trying to add to. So the idea was presenting you a model more or less with the color scheme, because at the beginning some people feel stressed with that ideas, and I've decided to propose you something like that, like, okay, I'm going to add some colors, few, not all of them, and in general with a darker base coat, because remember, I always explain you that with a first shadow it's, my opinion, easier to paint than if you have to paint the mid-tone or the highlighting and then go back, go down, blah 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 blah. Maybe it's so hard. So if you start with something darker like that, so if you have other streamings with the orc from Kill Team, where I was painting just from the black color, something that I don't recommend you to do, but it was like an experiment, so I think could work really well. So that was everything, okay? So it's really tough, say goodbye, but I have to say. So I hope see you next stream. Please share with all of your friends and enjoy painting. Remember, you have the whole weekend to continue painting and enjoy. So thank you very much to stay on the other side. Remember that we are working really hard on Patreon too. So if you want to see more tutorials with detail, you have many of them. So every week we upload them. And on YouTube, we want to start our career too, start with our YouTube channel. So we will uploading more tutorials or more videos. So just let me know if you like them. Tell me your ideas in next videos, like I would like to see that, I would like to watch the other thing, blah 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 blah, everything. So tell me and I will try to do tutorials for that too. Again, thank you very much and see you next stream. Thank you very much and bye bye. Wee.